Hey guys, so welcome to another live stream. Hey Stephanie, hi. So as you can see, we've got a bit of a different format here. So what's the audio and video like? If you could just let me know in the chat if the audio and video is all cool. So, where are we? So, perhaps a few updates while we are waiting for some more people to join the live stream. So, yes, so I'm running the Learn to Channel course again, and also I'm doing a First Contact Play Shop with the Pleiadians. First Contact Play Shop is the third one, I believe, with the Pleiadians. So yeah, if you check out the links in the box below, they've got the links there to the First Contact Play Shop and the Learn to Channel course. So the Learn to Channel course is running over 3 weeks in June. Beginning of June, so it's the 4th time I've run this 3-week Learn to Channel course. It's been a big success in the past. So, and also if you tune in, hold on one sec, just see if the live stream's working okay. Yeah, it looks like we're all good. Yes, so hi Sarai, hi Shannon. So what are we doing? Yeah, I'm running, if you check out my video that I did yesterday, the live stream yesterday, if you look at my live stream from yesterday, it's titled Interview with Christy Clark, Reality and ET Contact. About in the middle of that, or towards the start of that transmission, I talk a bit about the recent download I've had, the recent inspiration to move in a new direction. So I recently took a little bit of a break from channeling. I stepped back a bit. I wasn't totally inspired to keep channeling full time, so I had to sort of drop it for a while and wait for inspiration from my higher self as to what was the direction to move in. And so I just sort of surrendered and sat back and waited and went with the flow and just sort of tuned into what was the flow. And eventually I have begun to get inspiration to begin to, I guess, bring this new consciousness to humanity, this new... So I talk about consciousness a lot, and the new consciousness, which is the awakening of consciousness. But also I talk about this new consciousness that is in a sense, the ET collective hive mind, the social memory complex as well would call it, the collective mind, the unity consciousness, the collective telepathic mind of all the ETs assisting Earth at this time, along with all the light beings and light workers and ascended humans and angels and all these high consciousnesses that are working together to uplift Earth and humanity at this time. There's like this new consciousness. I call it the 5D consciousness, or the grid consciousness. It's like there's this consciousness that surrounds the Earth, that permeates our reality, that is available to us all the time now. It's like this higher consciousness connected to the extraterrestrial realms is like available, and it's about learning to tune into this consciousness that is always here. It's sort of like the same as like our true nature is always here. Like some of the teachers say, you're already enlightened, it's already here, it's what's already present, it's your true nature, it's what's here before your thought and your mind. And in the same way, there's this kind of collective consciousness of the extraterrestrial alliance around Earth, within like Earth's energy field. And it is a very blissful, very euphoric, very loving, high vibrational frequency that we can learn to tune into. And a big inspiration of my work at the minute is to begin to bring this new consciousness to humanity, to begin to share this with the world and get as many people tuned in and able to connect in with this consciousness, or at least loosely feel the resonance of this consciousness as possible. And I'm going to be doing this through a variety of methods. And one of them, of course, is continuing with the first contact play shops, which I've already started. So I think it is the Sunday the 20th. If you check the links in the box below, there's a link to the first contact play shop with the Pleiadians. And I believe it's Sunday the 20th of June. And in a sense, we're going to be taking this to a new level. It's like these downloads I've had, these connections I've had to the, in a sense, another level of contact, which isn't really another level because I've experienced this before, but it's becoming more available to me. And I'm going to be working with the Pleiadians and channeling the Pleiadians in this play shop and hopefully attuning you to this new consciousness. So that's the aim of this new play shop. So check out the links below. The first contact play shop with the Pleiadians and the Learn to Channel course is running again. So check out the links. It'd be great to have you there. So yes, so let's see what the chat box is saying. So, not many questions. So if anyone has any questions, fire away. It's funny how sometimes we have like hundreds of questions and like it's just going and other times no one really wants to ask any questions. I guess it's sort of to do with the energy and how things are moving. It's a bit of a chill day today. The energies are good, aren't they? So we just perhaps need to take advantage of these peaceful energies and chill down and have fun. So okay, I guess I'll get to the topic of the live stream. Hey Jesus, hey Firstborn, hey Courtney. So yeah, so I thought I'd do a, it's a bit weird, this new software. I don't know whether I should be looking at the image of myself or the chat box. Can I get them both up somehow? I should be able to. Yeah, let's try this, see how this goes. Okay, so the event energy update. So I thought I'd give a quick hey Massimiliano, probably not going to channel today. I may do a little bit. I'm not planning on particularly bringing through the Yael or the Pleiadians or anyone specifically, but we're always channeling in a way, tuning into what mirrors what I can reflect back to you. I just saw on the news this morning a priest was arrested for paedophilia. Do you think they will be releasing more stuff like that than eventually all the hidden technologies? Yeah, I mean, it's all coming out. Disclosure is happening for sure. I mean, if we watch in the media, these sort of things are happening all the time. There's more and more of these high-ranking people being arrested for their sex offences. They can't hide anymore, so this is all good. And yeah, I guess the hidden technologies will come out eventually, unless they blow themselves up in their bunkers with all their technology and we lose it all. But that's not going to happen. So yeah, disclosure is happening. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens over the next weeks, months and years with regards to releasing these technologies and disclosure about UFOs and all the dark stuff like that. So yeah, it's going to come out. Most of it will come out, and it has to come out because this is we're moving into fourth density, and one of the, in a sense, aspects of fourth density is transparency, because a fourth density reality is ultimately a fully telepathic civilization. There's no space for secrets, so everything has to come out, and that's why this is coming out, because we're moving into the age of transparency and telepathy and unity consciousness, so it's impossible to hide anything anymore. So yeah, it will all come out. this is May Day. Anything we need to know for today as far as shifting? So perhaps this is a good segue to step into my perspective on the event and what's occurring at this time. So yeah, so to talk about the event a little bit first. So what has happened? So towards the beginning of this year, I started to hear a lot of information about how people are talking about the events. We're going to go through a big shift around the equinox period that we've just been through. And of course, as usual, a lot of people sort of define this to mean like we're going to go through some huge shift, and like all of a sudden the angels are going to descend and the sky is going to change colour and there's going to be lights in the sky and aliens floating around and magic's going to happen, and we're all going to transition into this new era of consciousness and awareness and trust. Sorry, I got lost. What was I talking about? Turn my phone over, it's distracting me. So, yes, so everyone was sort of expecting like this huge event, this huge shift, this massive thing to happen where I guess all disclosure happens, it's the end of suffering, we manifest, we all of a sudden become very rich, or I don't know what people were expecting really, but everyone was expecting some massive events where everything was going to change. And of course we've heard these predictions many times before, and they don't manifest in the way a lot of people are expecting them to, but I guess this did play out pretty much how I expected it to. It was around the equinox period, and we certainly went through a huge acceleration of energy in the weeks and the months prior to this equinox shift, and there was a massive acceleration of consciousness. And from my perception, the people that were pointing to this shift period, this event period, as a big shift in consciousness, they were correct. In my opinion, it did happen. It happened. It was another shift of consciousness. It was a huge threshold of consciousness. We went through a massive shift. I'm sure many of you would agree that the last 6 months, through from September last year onwards, we really went through a shift of consciousness that was very intense for most of us, and a lot of purging, a lot of letting go. Anything misaligned in ourselves, it was really forced out of our systems, and we were forced to face our out of alignment stuff. So from my perspective, the event did happen. It has happened. That shift that they were pointing to, that shift in frequency that people were tuning into, it did happen. It was a huge shift in consciousness for many of us. And what often happens is that when these predictions for these shifts in consciousness happen, many of us that are tuned into these energies talk about it a lot. And those of us that are really conscious and really following our passion and our excitement and really going for it with our spiritual path, I think a lot of us really experience these events and these shifting consciousnesses very dramatically and very intensely. And from my perspective, the event did happen. We have been through this huge acceleration of consciousness that is now leveling out, and we've all been upgraded, and we've all let go of a lot of our out of balance stuff. And from my perspective, this event, this shift, was the end of a cycle. This is my perspective. I've not heard a lot of confirmation. People point to this, but I feel personally and collectively we have reached the end of a cycle. Like, I call it 8-year cycles, whether it's an 8-year cycle, a 9-year or a 7-year. I'm not sure exactly how this works, but it feels like an 8-year cycle to me. And it feels like we've gone through this huge cycle over the past 8 years. Like 8 years ago, a lot of people were having these awakenings and awakened to sort of a lot of bliss and euphoria and peace and tranquility and serenity and stillness and emptiness and pure consciousness. And sort of around the beginning of this 8-year cycle, or in the first half of this cycle, sort of 2008, 2009 to 2012, 13, around that area, a lot of people had big awakenings to this new consciousness and was experiencing a lot of euphoria, a lot of bliss, a lot of unity, a lot of serenity, a lot of deep peace and oneness and that emptiness and stillness. And we all thought, like, hey, we've made it. And then what happened was, towards the second half of this cycle, a lot of us went through this purging period where a lot of our old human aspects from our old lives were coming to the surface, like our need for a relationship with a female or a partner that we're attracted to, or fear of money and issues with know, parents and social issues and all this stuff that from our childhood and the stuff from our past that we thought we transcended seem to still be programmed into our subconscious and our thought patterns and our emotional bodies, and it all came to the surface. And for a lot of us, life became very crazy, and all this purging went on. And towards the end of this, from my perspective, around the end of last year and over the last few months, it was really coming to the end of this, and all this stuff that had come up for us was really come to the surface and forced to the surface. And as we went through this event period, it was really, the exact energies got so strong and it was forced to the surface, and anything that was held onto us in our consciousness that was out of alignment was really brought to the surface, because this is what happens. The energies rise. We can no longer keep it buried in our subconscious, and any of these aspects of ourselves that are still hiding in our subconscious, our fears, our doubts, our lack of self-worth, our lack of unconditional love for ourselves and others, all these misaligned beliefs were forced to the surface for purging. And when I felt to the end of this 8-year cycle, and through what these people were calling the event, and what I did a little bit of channeling on myself and what the event meant, it was like we were coming to the end of this perspective of separation, and end of this perspective of lack of self-worth and all these negative beliefs of self, and they all came to the surface rapidly for purging and for harmonizing and bringing back into our state of oneness and our balanced frequency of energy. And this was the end of this 8-year cycle and what people called the event. And so this is what has happened, and we've now moved into the beginning of a new cycle. So what's going to happen, those of us that went through the last 8-year-ish cycle of awakening are going to go through this cycle again, but presumably from a much greater place of clarity and awareness and higher consciousness. And we're going to be able to go through this wave again, through this 8-year cycle again, in my opinion. We'll see what happens, of going through this initial phase of awakening that's going to happen over the next few years. We're going to get some amazing times as we enter this new cycle. A lot of people are going to awaken to bliss, euphoria, to serenity, to stillness, oneness. And those of us that have already experienced this, it's going to intensify, and we're going to settle back into this state. And then as we move through the second half of this 8-year cycle, things are going to intensify again. We're going to go through a huge acceleration of consciousness, and those of us that still have out of alignment beliefs are going to be bringing them to the surface for healing. It's another opportunity for healing and integrating. And I guess those that have already healed and integrated these out of alignment beliefs are going to go into a new phase of really perhaps working with the collective and balancing out misaligned beliefs within the collective, and allowing disclosure to happen, and an awakening within unity. But so that's generally my perspective of what the shift was, what's happening and what's going down. So this is May Day. Anything we need to know for today as far as shifting? I feel today is a very good day for just like meditating and being still. I've been working all day on my website and stuff, but perhaps it's a really good energy if you feel it, just to rest into presence. Because the way the energy is, we can still get a bit unstable, a bit and easily pulled into our minds and our reality and our worries and our beliefs. But it's also a good opportunity, the way this May energy is coming in on May Day and the way the energies are, to just rest into silence, into stillness, into who we are. So Shivai, good day. All is well, all is free, nowhere to go, nothing to do. It's all here, it's all you, it's all free, it's all bliss, it's all peace, it's all serenity, it's all you. The Saturn Retrograde is exposing people. Karma is really taking its turn. Well, that's all good for this planet, because we need a lot of people to be exposed, and we need a lot of karma to be cleared. And while this can be intense in ourselves, while we're still clearing karma, it's ultimately great, because all these beings that are not so positively oriented on Earth are being exposed. So we can just choose not to observe them and shift in our own direction. I've noticed that the energies are much easier to handle this 2018. Hard times are behind us, right? Yeah, well, that's sort of what it feels like for me. Specifically now, as we pass through the equinox, it feels like the energies are getting lighter all the time. And I guess, in a way, they have been doing for quite a time, because sort of to the end of last year and through the winter period, and perhaps even January as well, it was really dense, really dark. Like, everyone was struggling. Everyone was like, what's going on with these energies? And like, even those people that were very grounded and centered and high consciousness could really feel the collective swamp energy. So yeah, they're feeling definitely better. I think most people agree that the energies are on the up. Life's a lot lighter, more fun, and hard times are behind us, right? Well, it seems like that part of the dense energy coming up is behind us, and for sure, perhaps that's the release of those really dense energies. I don't think we'll ever go into those dense energies again that we went into over the winter, because we have dealt with them. We brought them to the surface and released them collectively. However, I wouldn't say it's going to get easier, because it only gets harder in a way. The energies get lighter and we get more excited and more euphoric and more tuned in and more oneness, but the challenges always get harder, always get more intense. That's the reason why we're on Earth, to experience intense challenge. So as we rise in consciousness, challenge always increases. So it's going to get more intense, more challenging, but I think also more light, more joyful, more expansive, more blissful, more fun. Good morning from Bellingham. I've got no idea where Bellingham is. It's the end of conditioning. Well, it's the beginning of the end of conditioning, because it's very hard to release our conditioning and our mind patterns. But it's certainly the beginning of the end. What is it that Winston Churchill said? So, this is not the end. I don't think that's even relevant. Yeah, maybe. This is not the end. It's not even the beginning of the end. But it is perhaps the end of the beginning. I don't know what I'm talking about. I've been noticing people waking up from their slumber and realizing that their old belief systems were incorrect, along with criticizing the one-sided narrative of mainstream media. I've been noticing people waking up from their slumber and realizing that their old belief systems were incorrect, along with criticizing the one-sided narrative of the mainstream media. Awesome. Do you think karma and judgment are similar in some way? Was it Jesus said, "Judge not, and lest it be judged unto you"? And I think what Jesus was talking about this is when, say, someone does something bad to us, say someone steals like £50 from us, and you judge them, you're dropping down. Perhaps that's not the best example. So say someone is, say we're judging George Bush for being a warmonger, as an example, and saying how bad he is. And the thing is, when we go into judgment, we are actually matching their vibrational frequency. To judge someone for doing a negative act, we are actually dropping ourselves down into their frequency. Because in a sense, judging someone for a negative act is just as negative in a way, because it's not our place to judge. I'm not sure, but anyway, when we drop into those energies of judgment, we are matching the vibrational frequency, and we tend to attract it to us. So yeah, I mean, judgment for sure creates karma, because it's an out of balance frequency, it's an out of balance energy. Judgment, like creation doesn't judge. This is the idea of non-duality. Like George Bush being a warmonger is just what's happening. It's just part of the divine play of creation. And when we can see it as part of the divine play of creation and validate it as a valid expression of creation, like if George Bush wishes to follow the path of the dark side, that's up to him. That's his choice. It's truly his choice. It's not my place to judge. It's his free will. I honour him, his free will. I do not judge. And from this perspective, we are, in a sense, allowing ourselves to choose otherwise. Because when we judge it as negative and get really aggressive towards it, and like, George Bush is a warmonger, he's such a bad person, he's so evil, we need to get him off this planet, we need to get rid of him, we're dropping into a low vibrational frequency that is actually attracting those sort of circumstances to us, because what you resist persists, what you push against you actually draw towards you. So when you are actually continually judging like George Bush as a negative warmonger, perhaps he's transformed, who knows, but you are actually attracting to you because you're focusing your consciousness on that reality and attracting it to you. So in a sense, you're creating more karma of negative warmongers in your reality. So perhaps this answers your question. But when we are able to just view it as a neutral circumstance and a valid option of creation and put no negative charge on it, just allow it to be, we can say to ourselves, well, it's valid, it's okay, I allow it to exist, but I choose otherwise. I just choose otherwise. And then we're not putting a negative spin on it, we're allowing it to be, but we're choosing to focus our consciousness in a new reality. So perhaps this answered your question, if judgment and karma are similar. Are there any messages you've received specifically for communicating to children? I guess the only one really would be to speak to them on their level. Like when we're working as a spiritual teacher or a channel, or really in any teaching environment that we're teaching efficiently from, we should be aiming to be a mirror of the person we are aiming to teach. So it's a case of, if we're trying to share spiritual perspectives with a child, it's a case of, in a sense, coming down to the child's level, like matching the child on their level and talking to them and seeing what their questions are. And rather than trying to force information on them, sort of answer their questions and continually answer their questions and listen to what they want to know and continue to answer them. So, and continue to reflect back to them like what feels purest. So when I'm answering questions, when I'm listening to you guys, I'm always trying to tune into what resonates. So you've asked me this question and I'm trying to let it intuitively come up from my heart, well up from my heart space, the answer. Rather than trying to answer it with my mind and going into my mind, I'm trying to drop into my heart space and feel what resonates and feel what answer enlivens me and lightens me up and inspires me. Feel what answer I am inspired to share. What answer energizes me. What answer has an energetic impulse behind it to share that answer from. And that's a sign that it's aligned with the perspective and you're mirroring back an aspect of the being that wants the answer. So my advice would be to always listen to the questions that the children are asking you and meet them on their level and continue to answer their questions whenever they answer their question, even if it appears to have nothing to do with consciousness or these ideas you wish to share them. Always keep answering them. And this tends to create like a conscious growth, a unity conscious between you and the child that continues to grow and evolve. And it is likely that our higher selves, the higher selves of you and the child, will coordinate to begin to coax the child into a opening of consciousness and ask the questions that will benefit them. And that this way we're working in an orchestration with the child's higher self, us, our higher self, and consciousness itself to orchestrate and create a synchronized reflection of what the child wants to hear. So meet the child on their level, answer their questions, and tune into what feels inspirational to share with that child. And then we will be being the greatest mirror we can for them and assisting them in the greatest way that we can. Hello, Indiana here. I have dreams of starships. Awesome. They're coming. The first solar wind stream of May. a hole in the sun's atmosphere is turning toward Earth. The first solar wind stream of May. A hole in the sun's atmosphere is turning toward Earth, spewing a stream of solar wind that should reach our planet on May the 6th. Interesting. Yeah, a lot of solar activity as we're going through this shift. And of course, this shift, this event, it will continue to happen. There will be peaks of consciousness and there will be high solar activity where we're going through intense periods of processing and acceleration. And of course, the stars and the planets are affecting. We're always going through shifts. There will always be events. So there will be big crescendos and thresholds to cross as we go on. So hey there again. My question, is there natural forces like duality in higher dimensions? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that question. I mean the law of polarity, since everybody says fifth and sixth dimensions of unity and oneness. Yeah, so I think I understand what you're asking. So the idea is that we've been going through this third density experience of Earth, where we have been warring and we've been generally dominated by the dark side, and there has been this duality of negativity and positivity, and the choice to whether to align to the light and love and light and service to the one and service to humanity, service to the all, or the choosing the path of service to self and death and destruction and the evil path that I don't understand too much about because it's not in my inclining to move towards. But yeah, so the idea is that as I understand it, it does the duality, the polarity, the opportunity to choose the path of service to self or service to others exists all the way up into sixth density. So I don't use the word terms dimensions. I use the densities, the density system. It's similar, but fifth dimension refers to fourth density. I'll perhaps give a quick brief understanding of what I mean by the densities. So it's the same as dimensions, it's pointing to higher dimensions of consciousness, but it's just a slightly different system of describing the rising of consciousness, and the densities refer to the density of light. So when you move up in a density, there's a greater density of light, in a sense less density of matter. So first density is the mineral kingdom, like I believe earth, air, fire and water, minerals, rocks, all this stuff. That's first density. That's the first level of consciousness in reality. So at some point in our evolution as a conscious being, we likely, well, ultimately we definitely did as consciousness as the one, but we experienced ourselves as a mineral, as just a very dense, pure awareness of reality rock mineral. And then second density is plant and animal life, vegetative and animal life. Third density is the density of self-awareness, humanity, humans, what we've been going through for the last few thousand years. What we're moving to, what some people call the fifth dimension, is what I call fourth density. Fifth dimension refers to the dimension of spirit conscious, non-physical consciousness. And we're not actually moving into the fifth dimension. We are bringing spirit consciousness into a physical reality. We're becoming aware of ourselves as spirit consciousness and creators of our own reality, but we're still going to have physical bodies. So we're not actually moving to the fifth dimension. We're bringing fifth dimensional awareness into a fourth dimensional reality. And this is what I call fourth density. And this is why I prefer to use the term fourth density than the fifth dimension. And fifth density is a very non-physical consciousness, and as I understand it, it's where we go very deeply into ourselves and explore consciousness inwardly, and perhaps this is more closely aligned to what the fifth dimension truly is. Sixth density is a density where we come, in a sense, back into ourselves in a way. While we don't have physical bodies, we are spirit beings and we are pure consciousness, but we, in a sense, come back into reality because we come back to be of service to humanity, and sixth density is always about service. seventh density is when we become unity. We merge back into God consciousness and the one. And so the idea is that does polarity, does duality, does the darkness and the light exist in these higher densities, or is it just germane to our dimension, to third density? And as I understand it, the polarity, the darkness and the light, does exist right up into higher sixth density. So in a sense, the battle between the darkness and the light goes on for a long time yet. It is possible to evolve in consciousness through the path of darkness. As I understand it, you can evolve to fourth density negative by being 95% service to self or more, which means being like a warmonger, killing people, torturing people, feeding off their fear, doing everything to control and manipulate, like being totally dark. You can choose to ascend to fourth density negative through this path, and up through the dimensions into fifth density and sixth density. But as I understand it, somewhere in sixth density it all breaks down because it no longer makes any sense. As we move towards the pure unity consciousness, the idea of separation and destruction and fear-based reality, it no longer holds any sense as we approach high sixth density. So polarity and duality and good and evil sort of dissolve, sort of drop away high sixth density, so in very high levels of consciousness. So yeah, it does exist most of the way up, but towards the end it no longer makes any sense because all consciousness eventually realizes it is one being, so it no longer makes sense to try and dissolve yourself, to try and manipulate yourself at all or control yourself at all, because you just become one being, so it doesn't make sense anymore. Yeah, definitely speaking from the Law of One book, as Ra explains densities. Yeah, it's I like the Ra. Bashar uses the same densities model. I've heard a few people use it, and I like the Ra densities model because it's more scientific. It explains more directly, and I'm a scientist at heart. Also, what about chakras? And mostly the densities are Also, what about chakras? And mostly the densities are attributed to them in a linear fashion. So fourth would make us more in the heart awareness rather than fifth or sixth chakra realities. Yes, that's exactly right as I understand it, Mikhail. It's we are transcending into fourth density, which is the consciousness of the heart. We're transcending into a fourth density consciousness, a love-based consciousness. We are moving from the third density consciousness of the solar plexus, which is centered around self-awareness and self-consciousness and self-perception in relation to others. The idea of third density is that we move as a consciousness in relation to others. So we're always looking to others for judgment. We're always looking to society to validate us. We're always looking to be respected and appreciated and validated and loved by others. That's third density consciousness. That's the idea that we evolve as a consciousness by interacting and trying to help and trying to please and trying to be validated and accepted and allowed into, and all these sort of interactions with humans. And this is the idea of third density, and this is why so much of us are going through such a churning of the solar plexus of this time as we shift out of fourth density, because all these beliefs like, what does this person think of me? Do they think I'm a good person? Are they going to think I'm silly? Are they going to reject me? Am I not going to be loved? Am I not going to experience love? Am I not going to be financially supported because humanity has rejected me? All these beliefs that supported us and helped us survive the last few thousand years as we move through this third density reality, they're no longer serving us. They no longer help us at all, because we're moving into a heart-based consciousness where we act on inspiration, we act out of love and compassion and tune into our divine inspiration to serve humanity. And usually this will not be validated by our fellow humans because they are still stuck in third density and their old paradigm beliefs. So this is why it's causing so much chaos in our solar plexus and churning in our stomach, and we've all got these digestive issues and stomach aches, churning as we go through this washing machine churning round, as one of my teachers calls it. And so that's what's happening. So yeah, and we're transcending into fourth density, which is the density of the heart, of love and acting from love and compassion and the wisdom of love, the feminine energy in a sense, and inspiration that comes from the heart, the heart's consciousness, the consciousness of the higher self that is connected to the heart, that always acts out of love. So fourth density represents the evolution of humanity into the fourth chakra, the chakra of the heart. But what's happening at present is because so much of us are coming as wanderers, as Ra calls them, or star seeds, or perhaps even bodhisattvas, it might be a relevant term in Buddhism. We're coming into this reality, and in a sense we've had lots of soul incarnations in higher dimensions. We've experienced these lower realities before. We've experienced some very high realities, and we're coming into this reality with the experience of very high consciousness realities where we've activated our throat chakra, third eye chakra and crown chakra. So we've really gone into fifth, sixth and seventh densities, and we're experiencing fifth, sixth and seventh density consciousnesses, and we are bringing them into this earth because we've come here to assist the transition from third density to fourth density at this time, and we've come from these higher consciousnesses. So we have experience of these higher dimensions, and a lot of us are awakening these higher centers within ourselves. But the point is, they're not that relevant for all of humanity at this time, because the main point is that humanity as a whole is just moving into the heart chakra. We're not collectively moving into these higher chakra perspectives. I don't think everyone will awaken to the full chakra awakening, but everyone hopefully will awaken to the heart space, to the love, the compassion, the unconditional love, the bliss, the love for humanity. So yes, so fourth density is relating to the heart, and this is how I understand it. As I know, Andromedans operate from the third chakra. I'm not sure if you meant to write fifth there or third. Guessing you wrote fifth. Pleiadians from the fourth and Sirius from the sixth. And I was told I'm from Sirius, so I really want to know what operating system is. Yeah, that probably resonates. I don't think that's like 100% true, because there's many different there's many different Sirius beings on many different densities. But Bashar talks about how as we shift from third to fourth density, Bashar and the Sasani are shifting from fourth to fifth density, and there's a consciousness in Sirius that is shifting from fifth to sixth density. So you maybe have a connection to that Sirius consciousness. Pleiadians from fourth density. Yeah, it makes a sense that there will be some fourth density Pleiadians interacting with us, because this is all about the shift to the fourth density chakra and the fourth density love-based consciousness, and the Pleiadians very much embody love and compassion and are seemingly going to be the first ones to make contact with us, because they are all about love, all about compassion, all about unity, and this is what humanity really needs at the moment. So that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, and also Andromedans from the third. So Andromedans are still in third density. So yeah, that's possible. I'm not aware of any Andromeda. I don't know much about Andromedans at all, to be fair. But yeah, there could well be still third density Andromedans. I wouldn't have thought that third density beings would be that involved in contact. I would have thought they'd be evolving to fourth density like us if we're likely to have contact with them, but who knows. So we have come to the end of the questions, it seems. So what do you think to the new live stream format, guys? So the good thing about this is I can bring in like a lot of other things into this box. I can sort of move this around, like, oh dear, what am I doing? Hold on. Yeah, it gives me the ability to like move things around like this, and like if you see the interview I did yesterday, I got the guy I was doing with the interview yesterday up in a box sort of here, over to the right, over there, and I can bring in like web browsers and all sorts of stuff and other sorts of multimedia data, so we can begin to do a lot more things. And yes, so that's the general idea of this new system. So I'm going to be doing a lot more live streaming, so keep your eyes out on my feeds. It might be worth, if you're subscribed, to click the bell notification, because I'm probably going to be doing a lot of random channelings, random live events and stuff. There's going to be a lot more live streams coming. I did one yesterday, I did an interview yesterday, more interviews, a lot of stuff to come. So why was I telling you that? And what about shifts? Like for a moment I am in the heart, then I fail to stay there, or rather prefer to shift into another parallel of it and end up in the second chakra. Yeah, well, I guess what's happening is when we're rested in our heart chakra, in our heart consciousness, we begin to open up and begin to feel the love and the light and the compassion and the bliss and the connectedness opening. But what happens is, as our consciousness rises, the energy, our energy is continually moving through our chakras into our heart chakra to keep us consciousness in our heart chakra. But if we still have unbalanced, unresolved issues according to our lower chakras, we will continue to get dragged back into our lower chakras. And the second chakra is very much involved with self-perception, sexuality to some degree, and how we perceive ourselves rather than how others perceive us, which is the third chakra, and interaction with others. It's more about our own perception. Like a lot of these humans, oh, I'm not good enough, oh, I can't do it, oh, I'm such a failure, oh, I'm so ugly, oh, I'm overweight, oh, I'm no good for this. These are the second chakra beliefs that that trap energy in the second chakra and stop it from flowing up. So if you're getting the energy trapped in the second chakra, you need to look if you hold on to any of these lack of self-worth beliefs and begin to redefine them and see that they're nonsensical from the perspective of creation. So, yeah, I'm not doing any channeling today. So, any message from my Arcturian mum? Be yourself. That's what comes through. Be yourself. Be yourself. So maybe I did get something. I'm just hearing be yourself. Be yourself. Gil. So, I have a couple of books that we have. Book number 1, Sacred Encounters, Spiritual Awakenings During Close Encounters, Janet Elizabeth Colley. And we have book number 2, Preparing for Contact, A Metamorphosis of Consciousness. And the reason I have bought these 2 books into this reality, why they have jumped out at me, is because what I'm getting drawn to do now is, this, in a sense, my journey, my path, my excitement is perhaps moving into a new era. So 8 years ago, when I first started following Bashar and getting into ET contact, the message from Bashar was that if you want to have further contact with us, if you want to have open contact with our civilization and other extraterrestrial civilizations, you need to meet us on our level. You need to at least come halfway. You need to raise your consciousness to our level. So what I've basically been doing since then is I dived headlong into trying to raise my own consciousness, to try and become enlightened, self-realized, to try and raise my self-consciousness, self-awareness to a higher level, to accelerate contact with extraterrestrials. And really for the past 8 years, I've been going deep into self-realization, spiritual teachings, healings, redefining beliefs, all these paths to try and raise my consciousness to a level closer to the ETs. And I'm now remembering the reason why I did this was to move forward with contact. And I'm feeling at this time an impetus to begin to focus more on the contact aspects and perhaps slightly less, who knows, maybe not, but because it's all integrated, it's all connected. But I'm going to be focusing a lot more on contact and perhaps a little less on awakening, on healing, on redefining beliefs, on spirituality, self-realization and this sort of stuff. But of course, it's still a big part of it. We still need to be healing. We still need to be redefining beliefs. We still need to be working on the consciousness. So that's perhaps why these two books jumped out at me. And particularly this one, I can recommend. What's going on? No, wrong book. Confusing. Yeah, particularly Preparing for Contact by Lisa Royal. A great channel. She channels a being called Sasha. There's quite a lot of channel stuff in here. And the reason I've been drawn to these books is because they both come from very different perspectives, different perspectives of reality. Like this one is about raising our consciousness towards contact. And this one is about people who have had contact, had abduction experiences and are going through a healing process and healing themselves and being forced to raise their consciousness by looking at all the trauma that is buried in their subconscious from their abduction phenomena. So they're both very different books and talking about different things, but they both go very deeply into the healing of consciousness and how our psyche works and how we need to balance ourselves and bring our consciousness back into center and integrate all aspects of our being, our subconscious, our higher consciousness, our conscious mind, and become one integrated being. And both these books talk about this from a different perspective. I believe, I haven't read this for a while, but I'm sure she talks about this, how our consciousness is compartmentalized and how we need to bring back our consciousness into one being, one centered consciousness, so we can have further contact. And I think the example, I think it's this book it talks about, I hope it is, Lisa talks about how, like during the abduction phenomenon, the Greys didn't really understand us because we're all screaming and shouting and like when we get abducted because we don't want to be abducted. But from their perspective, they know that we agreed this from our higher self, so they can't understand why we're freaking out if we agreed to do this. But what they didn't understand, that we weren't in touch with our higher self. The higher self was separated from our consciousness. And so these books, they both discuss this phenomenon, this idea that we have compartmentalized consciousness, that we have trauma in our subconscious that needs healing and bringing back into our conscious awareness, and then healing and then releasing and redefining so that we can become more balanced individuals. And we also have the higher consciousness, and it's all about, in a sense at this time, integrating our trauma from our subconscious and healing and our releasing, whilst also integrating the inspiration and the wisdom that we are realizing and having insights and realizations of in our highest consciousness. So that's why we've got these books on the shelf, and I think I'm going to be working with these books a little bit in the live streams in the future. So I'd highly recommend both these books if you think you're going to be listening to my perhaps particularly the Lisa Royal one. If you're going to be listening to my live streams quite a bit, it might be worth you ordering this book, because it seems like I'm going to be working with this book quite a bit. I don't know how, I don't know what, but that's the direction that my higher self seems to be inspiring me. What do you think about realms? Like different timelines where there are dragons, wizards and all that? Well, I think they're all valid, they all have reality to them. I think any myth has some reality to it, and I think we have the ability to tap into these realms and these consciousnesses, and tap into the consciousness of dragons and the fearlessness of dragons, and the power and the transformational energy of wizards. And we can tap into these realms, and very much we can channel these, we can connect with them in meditation, we can connect with them in dream time, we can invite them into our reality, all these types of consciousnesses, and we can use them to expand our consciousness and lift us up in consciousness. But ultimately what it's all about, it's about grounding these teachings and these inspirations and what we get from these higher dimensions in physical reality. It's about the higher we go out there into these other dimensions, the more we realize it's about bringing these new consciousnesses back to Earth and staying grounded in Earth. So it's all about tapping into these realms, tapping into these timelines, and using them to improve this physical reality, this Earth, this life. Yeah. Preparing for Contact by Lisa Royal. Yeah, except the name's spelt a little bit different. It's spelt Lisa, Lyssa, Lisa Royal. And Keith Priest. It's dual authored. Okay, so we're bang on the hour. We seem to have done an hour. It's been an exciting transmission. So thanks for the questions, everyone. Thanks for logging in. And I think we'll call it there for a day. So just quickly, we've got a couple of events coming up. We've got the first Contact Play Shop with the Pleiades, the Pleiadians, coming up in about 3 weeks, I think. I think it's Sunday the 20th of May, but double check, click the links. There's links in the box below to the first Contact Play Shop with the Pleiades. So this is part of this new expansion of consciousness, part of this new calling to expand, to accelerate down the path of contact and begin to bring this consciousness into humanity in every way I can. So really excited to be stepping forth with this first Contact Play Shop. It's the first one we've done with the Pleiadians, and I think it's going to be great because they're going to really bring that love and compassion and joy of the fourth density heart chakra into our consciousness and open up our heart and our feminine, our goddess energy, and enable us to use this to connect into this new consciousness, because this new consciousness is very much centered in this fourth density love, light, bliss, heart chakra awareness. And when we can tap into this consciousness, we can begin to access the ET grid, access the higher consciousness grid of awareness that exists around the planet at this time. So, and that's what I'm going to be covering a lot in the first Contact Play Shop with the Pleiades. So check out the link in the box below, or check out my website, go to events on the website, and you can sign up for the first Contact Play Shop with the Pleiades. And also, yeah, I'm doing the Learn to Channel course again. So I've run this will be the fourth time I've run the 3-week Learn to Channel course. We've had some great success with this in the past. The last one was amazing. The first one was awesome. They've been really great. So I'm running this. They tend to go, I'm keen to keep running them through the equinox and the solstice periods. So again, it's running through June. I think it's the beginning of June, so it's going to be just before the solstice. So it's going to get us ready for the solstice. So yeah, the Learn to Channel course, it's over 3 weeks again. Again, that's in the link below. There's and you can go to my website, jonathancmartin.com, and click the events. And yeah, so check out the links in the box below. Hope to see you signing up for some of the events, and I will see you same time next week, 6 PM UK time for the regular live stream, but there will likely be more live streams in the meantime. I'm getting really inspired to move forward through this. I'm going to be doing a lot of live streams covering the cutting edge of extraterrestrial consciousness and the evolution and the movement towards first contact, and seeing how this unfolds. So thanks everyone, thank you very much, have a wonderful day. I will see you in another now if the alien doesn't get me and pull me up into another portal somewhere. So see you guys. Have a wonderful day. Shibai.